If you've ever been pushed aside during a family inheritance fight, share your story in the comments. And tell me what time are you watching this and where from. My name is Margaret Delaney, age 74. Widow, grandmother, invisible. I wasn't always invisible, of course. There was a time when I was the center of it all. My husband Harold used to call me the glue that held our family together. But glue gets dried out, gets ignored, gets scraped off. Harold passed away on a Thursday morning in April, quietly, peacefully in his sleep. He didn't wake me, I found him cold. That same evening, my son Daniel and his wife Beth came over. Beth cried the loudest, louder than me, louder than Daniel. So loud, in fact, I wondered if it was grief or opportunity. Over the following week, they stayed in the house. Not to comfort me, not to share memories, but to check drawers, look for papers, measure the antique armoire as if it were already theirs. I said nothing. The day after the funeral, Beth made tea. I sat in Harold's old chair, and she said lightly, sweetly, "You should start thinking about moving into something smaller, maybe a retirement community, somewhere you'll be looked after properly." I looked at her. Her eyes didn't meet mine. They scanned the living room. Landed on the grandfather clock Harold restored with his own hands. Her voice stayed soft. "It's just a big house for one woman. And Daniel and I, well, we're expecting." I blinked. They had said nothing about a baby, not a word even at the funeral. She smiled, placing her hand gently over her stomach. A gesture, not confirmation. But it didn't matter. That was the first time I felt the shift. Not just in the room, but in the family. Daniel didn't speak up. He never does. A week later, the papers came. A lawyer I'd never met. Harold's name at the top. An outline of his remaining assets. No mention of the trust. No mention of the joint account I'd been quietly tending for 30 years. No mention of the $8 million, because Harold didn't leave it in a will. He left it in my name, quietly, years ago. I didn't tell them. Why would I? Beth flipped through the papers with narrowed eyes. "This says the house is worth just under $500,000. You'll get something when we sell it." She didn't say if, she said when. That night I sat alone in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I once taught Beth how to make Harold's favorite stew. The same kitchen where I watched her pretend not to know the password to my Wi-Fi. The same kitchen where I'd once heard her whisper to Daniel, "Your mother doesn't need all this space." I was 74, but I didn't feel old. I felt outdated, like a model they no longer made. I watched the house grow colder, not from the weather, from the silence. Beth moved my things into boxes before I agreed to leave. She said she was helping. She labeled each one with Sharpie Kitchen, mom linens, old books, donate. I didn't protest. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just watched, and quietly arranged a rental apartment 2 towns over. Nothing fancy, just enough. The night before I left, Beth stood by the stairs and said, "Don't worry, we'll visit. Once the baby comes." I nodded. She never asked if I had somewhere to go. She never offered help. Daniel hugged me, half-hearted, one arm, no eye contact. The house I built, the floors I mopped, the furniture I polished, gone. I walked out with a small suitcase, a leather handbag, and $8 million, but I told no one, not yet. Have you ever been quietly pushed out of your own life? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes the softest voices carry the deepest stories. My new apartment was on the 2nd floor of a quiet brick complex. No garden, no porch swing, no Harold. But at least it was mine alone. The rent was manageable. Thanks to the interest alone from the account Harold and I built together, I had more than enough, more than they ever imagined. But I didn't use it, not yet. I didn't buy new clothes. I didn't upgrade to something grand. Because part of me still waited for a call, a check-in. A simple, "How are you, Mom?" It didn't come. 2 weeks later, Beth called. Her tone was tight, professional, transactional. "Just confirming, did you take the dining room mirror?" It wasn't on the moving list. I said nothing for a moment. "No," I replied. "I didn't take anything." Silence. Then okay. Just checking. It was appraised at $1, $200. Daniel said it might have been sentimental to you. The way she said sentimental, like a disease. A week later, I got a forwarded notice from their realtor. Preliminary listing photos for 37 Maple Lane. My house, painted over, the yellow curtains gone. Harold's desk replaced with a marble console. They'd staged the house, and in the living room photo, they'd kept the clock, the one Harold built from scratch. I stared at it for a long time. That clock took him 4 years. Every weekend, every gear. It was the sound of my marriage. The tick, tick, tick of a quiet, steady love. And now it was just a decorative prop. I started getting emails about shared inheritance disbursements. A lawyer I didn't hire, documents I didn't read. Beth wrote, "Please sign and return ASAP. Once the house sells, your portion will be released. My portion, as if I was a tenant in my own life." Then came the baby shower invitation. It wasn't addressed to me. It was a CC in a group email with 42 names. Caterer, photographer, hairstylist. I wasn't invited as family. I was listed as a +1 to Aunt Judith. I didn't go. Instead, I sent a card, plain white, no return address, inside congratulations. A child is a gift. Treat their grandparents like one too. No signature, no money, no $8 million check. Daniel never called, not once. He had grown up with Harold's quiet discipline. He used to say Dad doesn't need to yell, he's already right. But Harold wasn't here anymore. And Daniel? He had learned silence from me, not from respect, from how easy I was to ignore. I got word from a neighbor, Lily Sweetwoman, 68 diabetic, that the house sold in under 2 weeks. Beth posted a picture with the caption, "New beginnings, new baby, new blessings." No mention of the woman who made that house a home. No mention of me. My bank app showed interest compounding steadily. I had full access. I could have bought a condo on the beach. I could have donated it all. I could have sent a single photo of the balance to Beth. But I didn't. Because they didn't want me. They wanted pieces, a chair, a clock, a portion. Not presents, not love, just value. And still, somewhere deep, I waited. One morning I received a voicemail, Beth's voice this time higher, nervous. "Hey, just wondering if you ever found that old birth certificate copy for the hospital. It's, it's for the baby's paperwork. No rush, just let me know. I never had it." But I smiled. She only remembered I existed when she needed something that couldn't be bought. The next week I walked to the local bakery. The girl behind the counter, a college student, called me ma'am and gave me a warm roll on the house. "You remind me of my grandma," she said. She raised me. That one sentence hit harder than anything Beth ever said, because it wasn't about obligation. It was about connection. That night, I opened my safe deposit box, inside the trust letter from Harold. He'd written, "This money is not for survival. It's for dignity. Use it only when the world tries to take that from you." I cried, not for me, for the part of Harold that still knew me when even my own son didn't. I folded the letter, closed the box, and began to watch them. Not out of revenge, but curiosity. What would people do when they thought you had nothing left to give? Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's waiting. And oh, how long I've waited. The bitterness didn't come all at once. It didn't arrive with raised voices or slammed doors. It came softly, like dust, settling in corners, filling up the quiet, layer by layer. A month after the house sold, I got another email. "We've finalized the asset split. You'll receive $31,428.57 via bank transfer." Beth added a note. "Thanks for cooperating. Hope this helps ease things for you." Ease things. As if $31,000 could make up for a lifetime. For a house, for a marriage, for being tossed aside like a dated sofa. I let the money sit. I didn't touch it. I didn't even look at it again, because it wasn't generosity, it was hush money. A fee for leaving quietly, for not making trouble. Then came the photos. Beth's social media was full of them. The nursery, the stroller, the matching pajamas. Each post a polished pastel lie. "Can't wait to raise our baby in a house full of love." I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that brings relief, the kind that scrapes your ribs on the way out. One post stopped me cold. Daniel standing on the porch of our old house, Beth next to him cradling her belly. Caption building a family legacy one room at a time. Legacy. They sold it. They staged it. They erased me from it. And now they called it their legacy. I stopped showing the photos to anyone. Even Lily. Even my sister-in-law, Joyce. Because saying it out loud made it worse. One day I saw Beth at the grocery store. She didn't see me at first. She was by the frozen meals talking on the phone. No, she hasn't called. Honestly, I think she's fine. She's always been a bit stoic. Cold, even. Then she saw me. Our eyes met. She froze. I nodded. She gave a tight smile. That was it. I walked past her in silence, but something inside me cracked. I wasn't cold, I was controlled. There's a difference. That night, I sat on my bed holding Harold's trust letter, reading it again and again. He trusted me with everything, but I hadn't even trusted myself to say I deserve better. I wrote a letter, not to Beth, not to Daniel, to my granddaughter, still unborn. Sweet girl, if you ever wonder who lived in your room before you, if you ever find an old teacup with rose trim in the back of a cupboard, that was mine. I drank tea there while your grandfather built shelves for your books. I swept those floors. I planted the tulips out front. No one told you, but I was there, and I loved that house long before it was yours. I didn't mail it. I folded it and placed it in my journal, next to a photo of me and Harold dancing barefoot in the kitchen. I looked happy. I looked young, and I still was. Back then. The bitterness wasn't just from them, it was from me. From the realization that I let it happen, that I made it easy to erase me, that I called it grace when really it was fear of being seen as difficult. I remembered a time Beth came to me in tears. Daniel had lost his job. They were months behind on the mortgage. She cried in my kitchen, and I'd written a check. $20,000. I didn't even tell Harold. Beth had hugged me sobbing. You're like the mother I never had. Now I was the mother they never mention. I started to dream of Harold. He stood in the kitchen, always with his back turned, fixing something. In the dreams I would call his name. He wouldn't turn. When I woke, the room felt heavier, like it was holding things it couldn't say. Just like me. I began journaling again, not for healing, just to prove I existed. Each entry, short, clipped, honest. March 12th. They bought a leather couch with my money. I'm sitting on a folding chair. March 18th. I saw Beth in line at the pharmacy. She didn't recognize me. I wore the scarf she gave me on Mother's Day. March 23rd. I wanted to call Daniel. I didn't. I didn't want to hear silence again. Then one day I got a knock on my door. Not Beth, not Daniel. A delivery man. A pink box with a small card. Welcome, baby Sophia, love the Delaney's. No mention of Grandma. No invite, no photo, just sugar cookies shaped like onesies. I placed the box in the fridge. It stayed there for a week, until Lily came over. Aren't you going to eat one? She asked. I shook my head. I already know what it tastes like. She didn't ask what I meant, and that's when I knew. They had forgotten me, but I had not forgotten what they took, and I would not forget what I still had. Sometimes the deepest cuts come from the softest silences, and the bitterest truths are the ones no one else remembers. I began spending more time in the park, not because I needed fresh air, but because it gave me a place to watch life happen, without being expected to participate. There were other women like me, older, quieter, sitting on benches, sipping from thermoses, feeding birds. We didn't speak much, but we understood each other. Because women like us, we see everything. We remember who noticed and who didn't. I started noticing the Delaneys from a distance. Beth posted often, but the smiles got tighter, the captions shorter, no more exclamation points, no more blessings. Just filtered pictures of Sophia, and the occasional reposted quote about doing everything alone. Daniel changed jobs again. I found out from LinkedIn. He was no longer in management. He'd moved laterally, then downward. Stress shows in the posture. He used to walk like his father, shoulders back, chin level, now bent, distracted. One morning, I walked past my old neighborhood. The tulips I planted still bloomed. But someone had dug up the bench Harold built beside the porch. It was gone. In its place, a plastic playhouse. Bright, cheap, temporary. I paused by the sidewalk. Beth's voice floated from the open kitchen window. No, we can't afford that now. I said no. Daniel, you think I want to ask her she hasn't even tried to reach out? Ah, so I still existed, but only as a last resort. I kept walking. That weekend, I saw a notice on the community bulletin board seeking part-time childcare, Tuesdays and Thursdays, flexible hours. The name at the bottom, Beth Delaney. Phone number blurred. I smiled, because I knew she didn't want a sitter. She wanted someone to do what I would have done for free: rock the baby to sleep, warm bottles, pick up toys without being asked. But she'd burned the bridge, and now had to pay to cross it. I didn't reply, but I clipped the ad, tucked it into my journal, under the March 12th entry. The next time I passed my old house, the for sale sign was back up. Not the same one. This one said reduced, motivated seller. Curious, I checked the listing. The description was curt, no mention of charm or legacy. The photos showed the nursery, empty, the crib gone, a stain on the carpet. I asked Lily about it. She shrugged. Word is they're moving in with her parents. I raised an eyebrow. Beth's parents. She nodded. Apparently they offered, said they'd do what Margaret never did. I said nothing, because I already knew Beth's parents never liked me, thought I was too cold, too quiet, too calculated. Maybe I was. But Harold used to say, still waters hold the most truth. I began giving away small amounts, quietly, anonymously. The bakery girl got tuition for the next semester. Lily received a mysterious envelope that paid off her medical bill. A young man in my building who'd lost his job found 2 months' rent covered. No names, no fuss, just acts of reversal. Because if my family couldn't use the money with grace, then I'd gift it to those who still believed in dignity. Beth posted again, a long paragraph this time. Unusual. Being a mother is hard. Doing it without support is harder. But I've learned we can only count on ourselves. I almost laughed. She had support. She kicked it out. Daniel still hadn't called. Not once. But I wasn't surprised anymore. He was a good boy once, but he married loudness, and quiet men often surrender to loud women because it's easier than conflict. One morning, I got a text from an unknown number. Hi, I don't know if this is still Margaret's phone, but I wanted to say sorry for how things went. Daniel. No punctuation, no warmth. I didn't respond because it wasn't an apology. It was a breadcrumb, a test, a fishing line cast with the hope I might bite. Instead, I wrote in my journal, April 2nd, Daniel remembered I exist, but only as a feeling of guilt, not as a person. I still hadn't told them about the money, the trust, the letters, because truth when released at the right time doesn't just reveal, it redefines. I was patient, I was still, but I was watching, and oh, how I watched. Sometimes power isn't loud. It's not a scream. It's not a slap. It's a stare held long enough to make someone look away. It happened unexpectedly, not with a grand plan, not with dramatic music or thunder in the background. Just a knock on the door, 3 short raps, familiar, tentative. When I opened it, Daniel stood there, alone, older than I remembered, thinner, hunched. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at me like he was asking permission not to come in, but to exist again in my world. I stepped aside. He sat on the edge of my couch, fidgeting with his keys. She left, he said softly. My chest didn't react. I felt no triumph, no pity, just silence. She took Sophia, said I was no help, said she'd rather go back to her parents. I nodded. He looked up. I never wanted to hurt you, Mom. I didn't know how to stop it. I said nothing, because now he wanted to talk. Now when the house was gone, when the marriage cracked, when the only person left was the one he ignored. Beth never understood you, he said. She thought you were cold, but I knew you weren't. I turned toward him, calmly, evenly. Yet, you let her speak for you. He swallowed hard, didn't deny it. I thought, maybe you didn't care. You never argued. I looked him straight in the eyes. Silence isn't absence, Daniel. It's patience, it's pain, and sometimes it's protection. He looked away. Then, after a moment, I'm staying at a motel. I don't have much. I waited. I don't know what Beth did with the money. From the house. She managed it. I trusted her. Still, I said nothing. He was unraveling, not for my sympathy, but for relief, as if confessions would buy him back his place. I know it's a lot to ask, but if you could help with rent just for a bit until I figure things out. There it was, the ask. He couldn't even say it clearly. He didn't mention an amount, didn't dare ask for what he wanted my rescue. I stood, walked to the drawer beside my desk, pulled out the envelope. 8 pages, Harold's Trust, bank statements, a single photo of the account balance. I handed it to him. He opened it, read the first page, stopped, stared. This is in your name. I nodded. All of it, I nodded again. He sat back stunned. 8 million, his voice cracked. I didn't speak. I let the silence do what it always had, speak louder than any words. You had this all this time? Yes. And you didn't say anything? No. Why I leaned forward met his eyes. Because love shouldn't be bought, Daniel, and I needed to know if you ever loved me without a price tag attached. He dropped his gaze. His lips trembled. I'm so sorry, Mom. Tears came. His shoulders shook. But I didn't move to comfort him. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. Because some apologies come too late. And not every truth requires forgiveness. I gave Beth a $20,000 check once, I said quietly. Do you remember that? He nodded, ashamed. I did it because she cried. Because you were struggling. I wanted to help. He said nothing. And when she asked me to leave the house, I built the house I scrubbed and filled with birthdays and sick days and lullabies. You let her. He broke. I thought you were strong, he whispered. I thought you didn't need me. I paused. Mothers don't need their children. They love them. He looked up again, eyes red. What now? I folded the papers, slipped them back into the envelope. Now you go. And think about what a second chance costs. He opened his mouth to protest. I raised my hand. I won't abandon you, Daniel, but I will not reward betrayal. You will not touch this money, not today, not until you remember what family actually means. He stood, shoulders drooped. You're right, I don't deserve it. He turned to go. I stopped him at the door. One last thing. He turned. I handed him a key. Unit 3C down the hall. Empty. Paid for a year. If you want to rebuild, do it humbly. He nodded. Thank you. I closed the door behind him, and for the first time in months I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen by myself. Truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it knocks quietly and waits to be let in. It's quiet again, but it's no longer lonely. There's a difference between being alone and being abandoned, and I am no longer either. The mornings come gently now. I make tea jasmine or Earl Grey. I water my windowsill herbs. I write in my journal. Sometimes the pages are full, sometimes just a single line. Like today, I felt no weight on my chest. Or I heard Sophia laugh through the phone. Yes, she calls now. Well, Beth does. Briefly, stiffly. She never mentions the past, only forwards pictures. Videos of Sophia walking, dancing, drawing stick figures. I watch them, save them. But I never ask for more, because I know I'm no longer her place of need. I'm her place of regret. Daniel visits every Sunday. He brings groceries he thinks I'll like. Wipes his shoes at the door. Sometimes he helps me fix things I've already fixed just to feel useful. I let him. Because healing is slow. Because he's trying. And because somewhere deep in my bones there's still a mother who wants to believe her son came back. I haven't touched the $8 million. Not really. A few donations, a few private gifts. But mostly, I let it sit. Because the greatest value it holds is not in spending. It's in the knowing that I was never dependent, never small, never the burden they claimed. I sometimes imagine what would have happened if I told them at the beginning. Beth would have smiled wider, Daniel would have listened more. Maybe they'd have kept me longer, but it wouldn't have been love. It would have been leverage. And I've lived long enough to know leverage breaks the moment you stop giving. Sophia sent me her first crayon drawing in the mail. A wobbly house, a big sun, a woman with silver hair standing in the yard, underneath in shaky letters. To Grandma M, I cried, quietly, alone, but not from sadness, from recognition. Someone still knew I existed, someone small, someone honest. Sometimes I pass by my old neighborhood. I don't stop. I don't linger. The tulips are gone now, replaced with gravel. The porch swing creaks from rust. No toys in the yard, just silence, just time. And time, as I've learned, doesn't heal everything, but it clears the noise long enough for truth to echo. Harold once said, "Money isn't power, Maggie. Dignity is." And I finally understand what he meant. I'm not bitter anymore, just tender. Like a wound that's scabbed but still remembers the knife. I still keep his trust letter beside my bed. Still touch it before sleep. Not because I need the money, but because it reminds me I was seen. I was valued. I was loved. Long before anyone tried to measure me. To Ket Fim, Loi, Ket J Kam Suk. I was once a quiet wife, a patient mother, a grandmother seen as a burden. I stayed silent when abandoned, betrayed, and disrespected, but then with that very silence I made them listen. Now I don't need $8 million to prove my worth. All I need is a peaceful morning, a warm cup of tea, and a tranquil heart. If you've ever felt overlooked or discarded in your own family, share your story in the comments. And let us know what time are you watching this and where from. Let's be heard together.